Hello, welcome everybody. This is Movie Talk. If you're new to the channel, you're wondering why am I talking about movies on the main channel? Well, I have a second channel that I dedicate to doing movie reviews and talking about movies. And I was doing a segment a few years ago where it was called Movie Talk, where I would just bring other content creators on and we would talk about movies, stuff they like, just to get to know the content creators better. Well, this is a test run of a new version of it that I want to do maybe once or twice a week, where I discuss news from Hollywood, movies that are coming out, TV shows, stuff like that, just to get a break from all the craziness from the main channel and go with one of my favorite passions, which are movies. I love movies. I love horror movies, especially. So before we get into it, let me do a little intro into what we're going to be talking about. Updates on the new Spaceballs 2. Who will we see? Will we get any returning characters? Updates in the horror world when it comes to the two big IP champions between Freddy versus Jason. Are we getting new movies? Are we getting new projects? An update on the new Resident Evil movie. Could this be the key to reboot the franchise? A horrific turn in the world of The Exorcist. Anaconda 2026. Is it a worth watch or no? And a talk about the new TV reboot of the movie Burbs. So, like I said, I'm a huge movie buff, especially when it comes to horror movies. Victoria B and Victor Billy, welcome. Everyone who else is in the chat who's not here, welcome. Again, this is just a little break. This will mostly be on the second channel, the NCR Movie Network. Again, just change news with movie and you'll find that channel. So let's jump into Spaceballs 2. What are we going to be seeing? When will we be able to see it? And is there going to be any returning legacy characters? Well, everything is still pretty hush hush with the movie. There's no real leaks on the plot as of yet, but we do know that it was written by some people close to Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks will be appearing in the sequel as the iconic character Yogurt. Not only that, we are getting returning characters like Rick Moranis as Dark Helmet, Bill Pullman as Lone Star, Daphne Ziegas as Princess Vespa, and somebody I want to take a look at because I'm interested in how he's going to be portraying himself in the role. Bill Pullman's son, Lewis Pullman, as the character Starburst. Now, I know that name alone just sounds funny and crazy, but it's a Mel Brooks film, and we can definitely get a great laugh out of any of Mel Brooks' work. I'm especially appreciating the fact that he's going to be in the movie, especially with him being being over almost 100 years old now and still around, putting out gem after gem after gem. Now, there was some, buzz and dislike with his latest movie, History of the World Part 3, I believe it was. No, Parsons, it is not about Hard Rock Zombies 2026. If you want that movie made, you're going to have to make it yourself, buddy. Matt, no, I don't believe it's Spaceballs the second right now, but I believe the working title is still Spaceballs 2. Now, when they first announced this, we did see Mel Brooks talk about it while wearing the iconic Spaceballs sweater, which was a great bit from the original movie. It actually ties into something. Since it was a parody of Star Wars, Mel Brooks actually had to talk to George Lucas, and George Lucas said, yeah, you guys can do everything, but just no merch, which everybody wanted merch. Next up in the world of cinema, the Resident Evil 2026 reboot. Now, this is an official reboot to the iconic franchise, originally coming out in the early 2000s, starring Mila Jovovich as a straight platform for her. Now, I do want to say I do like some of the earlier Resident Evil movies. They were pretty good. The first two were iconic, based off elements of combining the Resident Evil 0 and 1 and Resident Evil 2 and 3 in the first two sequels. However, things kind of jumped the shark with part 3 and onwards. The franchise was not doing as well as it typically did in its first 3 film adaptations. However, in in 2021, we got the iconic Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which was basically a mixture loosely on the first 2 games. However, some people really didn't care for it, and it was considered a flop for the movie franchise. Although personally, I did enjoy it. I did like some of the references to the characters. I did like the iconic set design for the Art Raccoon Police Department. From what we do know about this new movie, we actually have some details on the plot. And seeing as this is being done by Whitest Kid You Know's actor and recent star when it comes to directing horror films, Zach Krieger, who did the films Companion, Barbarians, and Weapons being hit and miss with fans, but Barbarians being a fucking shell of a movie. And that's not a bad thing. That was a great movie. It's really a mindfuck of a movie. So what we have where it comes to the plot for the new Resident Evil movie, it's going to be taking place in a timeline with the second game. However, it's going to be involving new characters. Now, what we do know for the plot, we're getting new characters. One of the characters being acted by Austin Adams, who's playing a character, Brian, a medical courier who gets a call to transport a organ to Raccoon City. This place, instead of taking place in the Midwest, it's taking place in Colorado, where he gets into an accident, hitting a woman, trying to get her to the hospital while he's trying to deliver the organ, while she's transforming into a zombie due to the T virus. Now, Sony Studios have spent almost $80 million on this movie, hoping that this can be the shot in the arm to bring more movies out there, especially with how the last one flopped. Now, I have very high hopes, being a fan of the movies and the games. Let me know what you guys think so far in the comments when it comes to these movies. Now, in other movie news, we're getting a brand new chapter to the Exorcist universe. Now, this new Exorcist movie will be starring Scarlett Johansson, and it will be in addition to being put out by Blumhouse. Blumhouse and Atomic Monster are collaborating to do a new chapter. However, the last time they did the movie involving the Exorcist being Exorcist Believer, it did not do as well, even though they brought in a legacy character to try to bring cohesion to the universe. It's not, I really don't have high hopes. My personal opinion on this one is something I'm gonna have to wait and see. It's scheduled to come out in March of 2027. The new Resident Evil movie, I'm sorry, I forgot to put out the release date, is coming out in September, actually, of this year. I believe let me pull it back up. I did have the release date. Yes, the new Resident Evil will be coming to theaters on September 18th of 2026. Now, the new Exorcist movie, let's be honest, it's Exorcist is one of those franchises that's very hit and miss. In other news involving the Exorcist, there will be akin to it. They said they're going to be trying to tie in stuff to the other movies, predominantly the first one. The director attached to it, Michael Flanagan, is optimistic. They're keeping David Gordon Green away from it, seeing as the last one he did bombed horribly. I do have high hopes with Atomic Monster being attached. Atomic Monster has done great work with special effects, predominantly on the Walking Dead and on the AMC and Shudder TV show Creep Show, which, by the way, is a really great show. If you love horror anthology, check it out. It's a great show. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about the new Burbs TV show. If you're not familiar, The Burbs is a 1980s dark comedy cult classic directed by Joe Dante, who was best known for stuff like Ghoulies and Gremlins. Joe Dante being one of the kings of horror from the 80s, also known for the werewolf classic The Howling, brings us who's not actually attached to this. I'm sorry for bringing that up, but he's not attached to this new TV show. This TV show is now streaming currently on Peacock. Actually, it debuts tomorrow. I apologize. My notes are a bit out of line. However, this is a dark comedy with a TVMA rating. However, it's just not going to be that good. Even critics are saying the same thing, bringing up points that, you know, the original 1989 classic, starring Tom Hanks as one of his earlier roles, having people like Carrie Fisher, Corey Feldman, Bruce Durham in it. Iconic characters, but this one takes place not even in the same universe. Keke Palmer plays the lead in this role, where her and her new husband move to his hometown, where it is the safest place on earth, but start to get concerns about their new neighbor who rents an old Victorian house or buys a Victorian house. They try to do some of the same elements of making, you know, the whole safest town, suburbia, boring nothingness happen. However, it's not what, like, the 8 episodes the critics have seen. They are all saying the same thing. It is not really that funny. They have funny people attached to it. They have bits and cameos from some of the legacy characters and actors from the original 1989 movie in there. However, it's more of a murder mystery genres TV show with a little bit of a dark comic twist. Now, they do have some pretty good people on there who wrote it and are acting in it. They do have an issue, though, and that issue is they're setting up for a sequel season without actually airing it already. Now, I love a good dark comedy. The Burbs is like actually one of the first movies with a bit of a dark comic take I watched. It has iconic characters, iconic storyline, and it's perfect for that whole hour and a half long thrill. This TV show is an 8. I have not watched White Lotus yet. I've heard good things. But that's something else I'll be looking into. I do have things I'll be looking into, TV shows to do reviews on, movies to do reviews on. But with this new Burbs, it's setting up like they do in The Buildings Full of Murderers. But instead of doing it subtly and setting up one thing that could lead to a new season, they're just going, we're getting a new season without it even airing it. The IP is phenomenal, and really, it's not the best thing for this, especially when it's getting bombed already. It hasn't even hit streaming yet. The jokes are not really written to be funny. They're coming out more of a light chuckle, and it's not really that dark of a show, even though they have so much material to work on, and they pushed hard to get the TVMA rating, and it's going to be on streaming. It will be streaming on Peacock starting on the 8th of this month. Now, my thoughts on this personally, I don't like when they do reboots of TV shows for movies or trying to start something new. We've seen stuff like this happen before with movies like High Felicity, and with The Burbs being so iconic and it's a cult classic, I don't think this is the best avenue. I think maybe doing A mini series would have been better, but a straight streaming TV series of 8 episodes and not really going hard on the dark comedy elements like you had in the movie, like the iconic reveal at the end, you know, was really hard for them to do back in 1989, even though they were like extremely excited to do the movie. This one, it doesn't end well. Um, if you love, the Burbs and you think it might be good, I would say be cautious watching it because you might get your hopes up and they might be devastated. Now, is this the end of the season? Well, there's no news if they're getting a second season. We do know that they've set up for a second season, but they leave a lot of loose ends in the first one. So that might be something that's going to dismay fans from watching the show. Now, moving on to the next topic we have, which is what is going on with the Crystal Lake TV show? Well, the Crystal Lake TV show is still coming out. They have been doing reshoots for some of the episodes. However, we are guaranteed a release of this year in December. If you haven't seen it, the Friday the 13th series was in a bit of a conundrum when it comes to the rights due to a lawsuit by Victor Miller back in 2010 to get the rights back from the first movie. Him and Sean Cunningham got into a very lengthy legal battle that took years, where they finally split off and got a verdict. Sean S. Cunningham and Horror Inc. owning everything from part 2 and onward, but Victor Miller owning the characters Pamela Voorhees and the child version of Jason. Now, there was always this argument in that lawsuit stating that since they did have a uncredited writer redo the script, that the rights would eventually go back to Sean S. Cunningham, but that was never resolved or brought up in court. However, as of last year, we did get news that we are getting the Crystal Lake TV show starring Linda Cardellini from Freaks and Geeks fame and who played Velma in the 2 live-action Scooby-Doo movies. She will be playing Pamela Voorhees in all 8 episodes. There are 8 episodes. They are hopeful that this does well, and it will be airing on Peacock and is affiliated with horror studio A24. Now, there have been some screenshots released. I'm going to try to pull them up right now. Give me a second. Now, there's not a lot known about the story. We don't have any episode details out yet. However, we do know for a fact that it's a prequel going on to what led up to the iconic night at Camp Blood from 1980. Now, since we're talking on that, give me a second. My computer's running a bit slow. Now, this is an image I want to bring up right now of the new TV show from the sets of when they were shooting it. This is the first look at Pamela Voorhees in her iconic role. Now, am I excited for this? Yes, I do have high hopes for it. I love the Friday the 13th franchise. It's one of the big horror franchises. And from what I've been gathering online, Linda Cardellini has been phenomenal. She's studied how Pamela Voorhees was portrayed by Betsy Palmer. She's incorporated that. She's learned the lore. She's very focused on making this a true joy for the fans. Uh, since we're on the topic of Friday the 13th, we are getting a new movie, possibly. I'm sorry about that. Let me fix that. Uh, Bates Hotel was actually really good. I did enjoy that, and it's how you really set up a universe. I mean, it's a prequel show to the iconic movies, and the payoff was just phenomenal. I mean, I did enjoy the evolution of Norman Bates in there. I Yes, Corey Feldman was in Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, which came out in 1984. However, he was scheduled to be the star for Part 5. However, he was signed to do the Goonies and couldn't do it. So he did a brief cameo in the opening where they moved on to a new actor to play Tommy Jarvis. Now there have been a lot of fan made films. Wormstomp Studios did great with the Never Hike Alone series. I think I've played them on the movie channel before, and I've talked about them before, and it was done with love. They actually got the actor from Part 6 to come back as Tommy Jarvis in an older as an older EMT who went back to hunt for Jason. They did Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow. They did a third one which tied up the story, Never Hike Alone 3 or 2. They're all on YouTube. You can find them. They're worth the watch. If you love Friday the 13th, if you love a good scare and detail to the story, I highly recommend it. But moving on to the actual news, there is a new Friday the 13th movie in the works. This was announced last year. Since Peacock and A24 are doing the Crystal Lake prequel series, Mike P. Nelson, the director for the new Silent Night, Deadly Night movie that came out last December, are working with a new movie in the works. Seeing as they finally came up with a resolve to the lawsuit, and the official trailer of Sweet Revenge, a team up with Friday the 13th and Angry Orchard apple cider beers, they released a this is really not truly a Friday the 13th like people know. It it's it's more of a spiritual successor where they have dubbed it the part of the Jason universe. I am hopeful that we get the new movie. They said hopefully they can get the script ready and start shooting by uh, late December of 2026 and get it out in theaters as of 2027. And going back to Nightmare on Elm Street, we all know about the iconic Dream Demon played by Robert Englund. Well, there are talks of a new movie. Ever since the 4K DVD release and Blu-ray release came out, there's been talk to do a new movie. However, there has been an issue with the rights being held by the Wes Craven estate, and they had very detailed stipulations about that in Wes's will, stating that the family has final say over it. Now, Jason Blum of Blumhouse has been trying to get the rights to Nightmare on Elm Street for the longest time because he wants to tackle that iconic character of Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund said he would be stepping away from the movie, not because of anything involving Blumhouse or studio. It's just he feels he's too old to play the character. However, he would come back to do a cameo or even do some voice acting for an animated movie. Uh, Fans have been saying that they want to do something new. Robert Englund said he doesn't want to see another reboot. He would love to see, a progression on with the character, maybe something different. He's named several actors that he would love to see do the movie. However, as of late, there have been talks of Wes Craven's late wife holding up by wanting an insane amount of money just to get the rights to do a movie. She wants $10 million. That's just a rumor that's been going around online. There are talks that there have been several scripts submitted to New Line that they have approached the Wes Craven estate to see if they can get done. Unfortunately, nothing is being done at this time. There are talks of a new TV show similar to the prequel to Crystal Lake, but this one involving Freddy Krueger, what led up to that night, what led up to him becoming the iconic Dream Demon, maybe delving more into his past. However, I don't see it happen. Now, if they wanted to do a reboot of the Freddy's Nightmare TV show, which was more of an anthology involving some of the stuff that happened on the iconic Elm Street, that would be something I would be more interested in seeing. Or maybe even getting a animated version of the movie where they would be able to do something new with the character. We can get the iconic voice of Robert Englund. Heather Langenkamp, the star of the first movie as well, said that she would be willing to come in to do a cameo, maybe playing a small supporting role similar to the role that Linda Shay played in the first movie. Now, high hopes on a new Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't see it happening anytime soon. With that, I would say that a prequel show would be something more prone to happen. There were talks of them doing one on HBO Max when they did have the Freddy's Nightmare TV show on there, and it did so well on streaming. It's able to be found on Tubi if you have that. But I don't really think we're going to get anything new with those two IPs other than the movie that's currently in the works for Friday the 13th. Now, yes, that is a big reason why Rob Zombie does not do horror movies anymore. The big thing also with that is he wanted to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but could not. They couldn't get the rights, so he ended up doing the Halloween reboot, which I am personally not a fan of. I think Halloween is a great movie. I think Blumhouse did a great job with I think they did great work with Halloween, the new Halloween from 2018 and Halloween Kills. Halloween Ends, bit of a flop, in my opinion. They set up for so much, but end up not paying off in the end. They try to tie up too many loose ends. They only had a 3-picture deal, so I can understand why. If there's anything you guys want to talk about when it comes to movies, go to the second channel, comment on a video, comment on the stream. Let me know what you guys want to see. I will be setting up something on Discord when we can have more of these where we can set up, for things you guys want to see. I'm going to try to do, like I said, this once or twice a week just to get an update on stuff that's going on. I will be doing reviews on this as well, giving my opinions. And like I said, we're going to go into my opinions on the new 2026 Anaconda starring Jack Black and Paul Rudd. And yeah, it's not really going to be that good. It is on streaming right now, but they want such high prices on it. I believe Amazon Prime is wanting almost $50 just to watch it. There are some streaming sites that are charging $30. This was just an attempt for a name grab. Yes, they did get Ice Cube to come back to play in the movie. However, if you were a fan of the '97 version, which I was, I'm guilty of that. I watched a ton. This is just more of a comedy. There's no real horror aspects. The CGI is horrible. And the '97 one had bad CGI as well, but this one, no practical effects of the snake. I mean, they could have done so much. They could have gone to, Atomic Monster. They could have gone to Savini, but yeah, this one is not worth the watch. I would wait to, for the price to drop before you watch it. Now, I would say you're better off watching the Asylum knockoff movies when it comes to the new Anaconda, because this one is just not even that funny. They've got funny people in there, but the jokes are just so lame. The visual effects are awful. The story feels, forced. It's just not worth the watch. I do have to say, a movie I would recommend to watch on streaming right now would be on Netflix. It's the Guillermo del Toro version of Frankenstein. That movie, not only beautifully shot, but you got Mia Goth in there, and she plays Elizabeth, and she just does a stellar performance. The costumes are beautiful. The scenery in the movie are just breathtaking. You get lost in the movie. Another great movie on streaming that is well worth the watch would be the iconic movie that just came out last year, Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan, where he plays two characters, twin brothers who open up a bit of a speakeasy in the segregated South, where a group of vampires come along to try to take over. It's currently actually nominated for like 16 Academy Awards right now, maybe even more, they're saying. And he is nominated for Best Actor. I would recommend it. It's a great movie, especially if you just want a good movie night. And for Parson, if you want a bad movie night or just something to laugh at, don't forget his personal pick of Hard Rock Zombies. You can find it here on YouTube. Now, there are some things I'm going to be working on for the second channel. I know I don't do a lot on there, and when I do, it doesn't get the stuff on there, the views I want on there. But again, it's still a small channel. I'm trying to get it going. I just usually get caught up with other projects. But if this is something you guys like, if you think this is, that is a great movie. We actually aired it on the movie channel on Rumble. That's on there still. If you guys want to watch those, I do have a weekday movie channel on Rumble, where you can watch, where I'll play some different movies, mostly horror and sci-fi from the 50s and onward. But Max Schreck was the original Nosferatu as Count Orloff, and I would say if you want a good Nosferatu to watch the 1979 starring Klaus Kinski. He is a phenomenal actor in that movie. It's much better than the recent one that came out. Now, there is talks of a new Dracula movie coming out that I am looking forward to. I'm still keeping an eye out on updates for that. I do know there was a recent BBC Dracula TV show that came out. But if you guys have any questions for me or have any want to ask me about any movies I personally would recommend, please hit me up in the side chat right now. We're going to go for a little bit longer, and then we're going to end this stream. Again, if you guys like this kind of a thing with movie talk, let me know. If not, I'm going to try to come back to the old format of interviewing content creators and having, talking about movies with them, getting it so you guys get to know, the people you love to see on TV. Well, not TV, but YouTube. Now, let's see. Ah, something that actually surprised me is we're supposed to be getting some more horror films dropping this year, but I'm not looking forward to some of them because some of them just seem forced. Strigoi, Strigoi is actually phenomenal. He actually got the Silver Bolo, I think, last year. Joe Bob Briggs, I remember watching Monster Vision on TNT. I loved it, especially when he would do the Friday the 13th marathons. And speaking of which, we do have a Friday the 13th coming up next week. So maybe I might do a ranking of the Friday the 13th movies for the second channel. If that's something you guys want to check out. Well, if you have no other questions, and again, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. If this is something you want to see happen more, let me know. And on that, I will end it here. You guys have a great weekend. Be well, be safe, and I will see you next time.